Ntuthuko Shoba, the alleged mastermind in the murder of his pregnant girlfriend Tshegofatso Pule, was back on the stand today. He's continued to deny that he organized a hit on her. Shoba told the court he was actually looking forward to being the father of their unborn child. Convicted hitman Muzikayise Malepane has turned state witness, alleging that Shoba commissioned him to murder Pule in 2020. Our reporter Govan Whittles was in court today. He joins us now. So Govan, seeing this man, Shoba, on the stand, accused of being the mastermind, accused of commissioning a hit on his girlfriend while she was 8.5 months pregnant. Some very revealing testimony today. Tell us about it.
Indeed, it revealed what the last days of Tshegofatso Pule's life were like, what Ntuthuko Shoba was acting like as a father-to-be leading up to that period, but also it revealed how nervous they both were about giving birth, and particularly the situation with their families. What was revealed through his testimony, evidence in chief, was that Tshegofatso Pule was still very nervous about having Ntuthuko Shoba's family meet hers, and for them to accept that she is now pregnant. And right up till the end, she questioned whether or not Ntuthuko Shoba would actually take her to the family and whether the meeting would eventually happen. Of course it didn't, because she was killed. And what was also revealed was some of the more controversial aspects of what happened after her murder. Shoba saying that he didn't attend her funeral because he received some text messages from her brother and received a call from her aunt, essentially warning or threatening him not to show up. But it really was those very last moments when he saw Tshegofatso Pule, which came under the microscope, and for the first time his version of events revealing that he claims that while they were sitting at his flat, he got a phone call from another woman, and then in response to that phone call, Tshegofatso Pule then got angry and told him that she would organize her own lift home, something which she hadn't done before. He was known for organizing the Ubers, also taking her home himself. And then he says, after her ride arrived, he says they walked down and he saw a Jeep. And he says that she went into this Jeep without him checking who was in this Jeep. Of course, this is interesting because the confessed hitman had testified that Ntuthuko Shoba had met him earlier that day and told him to come and fetch Tshegofatso Pule from his flat and then kill her. Now he's saying that he didn't know who was in that Jeep. He saw there was one person there, but the person happened to be wearing a mask and a cap while driving alone, so he couldn't see who it was, and he was about 7 or 8 meters away. So he had no idea who that was. He'd never seen the Jeep before, and he simply let Tshegofatso Pule get into the Jeep and go home because he saw Tshegofatso Pule having a brief conversation with the driver, and then took that to mean that they must have been friends. Let's have a look at this part of the testimony.
Then later on, she said her ride is outside, okay, which was a bit of a surprise to me. And I said, okay, cool, and we walked out.
Just a minute. And why was it a bit of a surprise to you?
Because usually I'd take her home, I'd call an Uber.
Yeah. And did you express that sentiment to her, that you are surprised, or what did you say about that particular fact to her?
No, I guess it was a mental thought. I didn't say it to her. I just said, oh, okay. And then while we were walking out, obviously when she said my ride is outside, I was expecting to see a Uber, perhaps the Uber car, the Corolla, whatever. And then I realized it's a Jeep. And she walked directly to the car, to the front door of the car, and the window rolled down. And she had a small interaction with the driver, and then I figured it's someone she knew because of that brief conversation they had.
Yeah.
So really very interesting because, as you say, this is a complete different story to what we've heard from the convicted hitman. But basically it seems that by his version he was quite happy to let her get into a Jeep that she'd ordered herself and sail off into the evening. Now, because of the way the court has decided we can cover this, we obviously can't take it live, and we're not allowed to show his face when he's giving testimony, but of course we've heard the audio. Paint the picture for us on how he came across today in court.
Well, he was clean-cut, wearing a new suit, but he seemed to be very focused, always bent over, reading carefully from the WhatsApp quotes, which were, for the most part of today's testimony, and answering very quickly at times, and then answering very slowly at times. Should be pointed out, after the lunch adjournment, he'd become very slow in the way that he'd answer around why he didn't attend the funeral. And this then prompted his advocate to ask him if he was tired, and he revealed he hadn't slept, and that's how we ended up with the postponement quite early today, before tomorrow. But what was clear from his testimony is that the family were taken aback by some of the things that he was saying very confidently. And it did appear that Tshegofatso Pule's family wanted to interject. In fact, at one time, acting Judge Stuart Wilson had to remind the gallery that they can't continue running commentary on the testimony being delivered by Shoba. But of course, they believed a different story, and they believe what he's saying on the stand isn't the truth. They say that they don't believe he cared for Tshegofatso Pule and intended to look after the child. Let's have a reaction from the uncle of Tshegofatso Pule to today's testimony.
It doesn't appear that he was the person who was fully committed into bringing this child into this world. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the complaints that were coming from Tshegofatso about how his participation was lacking at some stage. So the picture that is being painted in court, that he was the caring person who wanted to be there for his child, it's totally untrue.
All right, so tomorrow he's going to be cross-examined. What holes is the prosecution likely to look for?
A couple of things to interrogate. First of all, it's a story about the Jeep and why he didn't follow up with her when she got back home, and why he seemed so lax about the fact that he couldn't contact her. Then it's the proximity of the one cell phone which was in contact with the convicted hitman to his own cell phone. He's denied that that's his second number, but the cell phone location tracking has revealed that the two cell phones were in the same place a number of times. So those two issues are likely to be the subject of intense cross-examination tomorrow, which may reveal the relationship between Ntuthuko Shoba and the convicted hitman in more depth, because up till now it's only been denials.
All right, thank you so much for that update, Govan Whittles there. Now